All right, let's dive into a really fascinating story today. It's an ancient Buddhist fable, but honestly, it feels like it could have been written yesterday. It's got everything: incredible beauty, a selfless rescue, and a betrayal so deep its consequences literally echo through lifetimes. We're going to unpack the Sūtra of the Nine-Colored Deer.
So, let's start with this question, because it's really the heart of the whole thing. What happens when you do something truly good for someone, save their life even, and they turn around and repay you with the worst possible betrayal? It's a tough one, right? And it forces us to think about gratitude, greed, and the real weight of our choices.
And look, this isn't just some fairy tale someone made up. This story is the real deal. It's preserved in ancient texts, specifically the Sūtra of the Nine-Colored Deer, part of the Chinese Tripitaka. So we're looking at a genuine piece of literature that was designed to teach a pretty profound lesson. Okay, let's get into the story.
So our story kicks off with a truly extraordinary character. And we're not just talking about some ordinary animal here. This being has immense spiritual significance, and it's the absolute center of this ancient teaching. Just try to picture this. The Sutra tells of this magnificent deer living peacefully by the Gaṅgā River. Its coat wasn't just brown, it shimmered with 9 different brilliant colors. Its antlers were as pure and white as fresh snow. But the most important thing, this wasn't just a deer, it was a bodhisattva, which means it was a past incarnation of the Buddha himself, a being whose whole purpose was to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of everyone.
So this bodhisattva is living a pretty peaceful life, until one day, that peace is just shattered by a desperate cry for help from the river. And this one moment, this fateful encounter, is about to set off a chain reaction that will have consequences for lifetimes to come. So the deer hears a man drowning, screaming for help. Without even a second thought, this bodhisattva deer just plunges into the raging river. It struggles, but it gets the terrified man on its back and carries him safely to the shore. The deer is totally exhausted. The man he saved is so grateful he's practically weeping, offering to be the deer's servant for the rest of his life. But the deer says no. It asks for just one thing. Please don't tell anyone I'm here. Humans are greedy, and if they find out about my colorful hide and white antlers, they will kill me. The man swears a solemn oath that he would never ever reveal the deer's location.
A promise is made. A life is saved. But, even the most serious promises can seem pretty fragile when human greed gets involved. And this whole tragic turn starts with, of all things, a dream. In a nearby kingdom, the queen has this incredibly vivid dream about the 9-colored deer, and when she wakes up, she is completely obsessed. She has to have its beautiful, multicolored hide to make a seat cover, and its snow-white antlers for a handle. It's not just a wish. She tells the king that if he can't get them for her, she'll just die from sadness. So you can feel the pressure building, right? The king, totally desperate to make the queen happy, puts out a proclamation across the land. Anyone who can lead him to this magical deer will get to share half the kingdom. Now just look at this contrast. On one side, you have a sacred promise to protect a life. And, on the other, an offer of unimaginable wealth and power.
Well, wouldn't you know it, the very man who was rescued from the river hears about this massive reward. And just like that, all his gratitude disappears. It's replaced by pure greed. And he starts telling himself this chilling thought to justify it. The deer is just an animal. What does its life or death matter? That life-saving promise he made? Suddenly, it means absolutely nothing compared to a pile of gold.
And so it happens. The betrayer leads the king and his entire army right to the river's edge. This is it. This is the climax of the story, where truth, courage, and karma are all about to collide in a big way.
As the army gets close, a friendly crow, who's a companion of the deer, sees them coming. It starts calling frantically, trying to wake the sleeping deer. "Get up! The king is here to kill you!" The deer finally wakes up, but it's too late. It is completely surrounded. There's nowhere to run.
But here's the thing. The deer doesn't panic. It doesn't even try to run. This bodhisattva calmly walks straight up to the king's chariot, and it asks him a very simple question. Who told you where to find me? The king just points to the man standing beside him, the very same man the deer had rescued. And as he points, everyone gasps, because the man's face has suddenly broken out in these awful, painful sores. It's like his inner corruption is literally appearing on his skin.
With tears in its eyes, the deer tells the king the whole story of the rescue. And then it looks at the betrayer and delivers this absolutely devastating line. It says that a piece of driftwood floating in the river would at least save a drowning person without doing them any harm. But a person without gratitude, they are so much worse.
That right there is the moral center of this entire story.
Now, that story on its own is incredibly powerful, but its true meaning, its real depth, is actually revealed much, much later. The Buddha himself used this story to explain the concept of karma and how the relationships and actions from this one moment would continue to ripple out across many lives.
So after hearing the deer's story, the king is just filled with shame. He can't believe it. He chews out the betrayer for his wickedness and immediately makes a new law. From this day forward, no one in his kingdom is ever allowed to harm a deer again. And because of this act of compassion, the kingdom prospered, the harvests were good, and the people lived in peace.
And that could be the end of the story. A nice fable, clear moral, job done. But the Buddha takes it a huge step further. He reveals that this wasn't just a random story about a deer and a man. Nope, it was a story about specific souls who are tangled together on a very long karmic journey.
And here it is. This is the big reveal. The 9-colored deer was, of course, the Buddha in a previous life. The loyal little crow who tried to warn him? That soul was reborn as his most devoted disciple, Ananda. Even the king and queen eventually became his followers. And the drowning man, the betrayer? He was reborn as Devadatta, the Buddha's cousin and his lifelong enemy, someone who was constantly trying to hurt him. Their karmic pattern, kindness met with betrayal, was set in motion a long, long time ago.
So this entire story is a perfect, crystal-clear illustration of karma. And karma isn't some kind of cosmic punishment system. It's more like a natural law of cause and effect. An act of kindness, like the crow's loyalty, creates a positive bond that can last through lifetimes. And an act of betrayal, well, that creates a negative bond that also persists until that karmic debt is finally worked out.
And that brings us right back to where we started, but now with a much deeper understanding. The Sutra of the 9-colored deer isn't really about a magical animal. It's a timeless lesson that asks us to look at our own lives. It asks, how do our actions, both the good and the bad, echo through time? It makes you think about every choice you make, every promise you keep or break, and wonder what kind of ripples you're sending out into the world. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.